Welcome to Legion Builds, where I guide you on how to bring your favorite characters into Dungeons & Dragons. This video and all my content is made possible by my Patreon supporters. It's also dedicated to everyone who subscribes to my channel. I really wouldn't do any of this without you guys, so thank you all. Today it's time to unleash the spirit of vengeance, the Ghost Rider. There have been many different Ghost Riders, but they all have one thing in common, so we're just going to focus on that. When evil commits horrible atrocities, the Ghost Rider comes to hunt them down and use its penance stare to destroy them by forcing them to live the horror of their sins. In all honesty, it doesn't matter which one we're going to focus on, does it? They all look extremely awesome, can engulf enemies in hellfire, and summon flaming mounts. They're like Spawn, but not controlled by a complete narcissist who nearly killed his own company because he wanted to buy a baseball that was only worth anything for about 3 days. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's a funny story, not for this video. For today's build, we'll be using the Player's Handbook and Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. We're using standard point array to make things simple for you, and we are multi-classing, so keep an eye on stat minimums. We'll start things off with Charisma at 15. Your head is a flaming skull. You're scary. Strength will come in at 15. You can actually take on some of the strongest beings in the Marvel Universe, but we'll only do that if they're evil. Like seriously, Ghost Rider and Hulk squared off until Ghost Rider realized Hulk was in the right. Iron Man sucks. Con rolls in at a 13, which is damn low for you. Seriously, if you roll for stats, make this one higher. Dex will be a 12. No reason for this one, but it fits better than the last two stats. Intelligence comes in at 10, and we're dumping Wisdom. Most Ghost Riders made some really bad deals to become the Ghost Rider, so I'm going to look at you and say, dum-dum. Regardless of what lineage you start out as, you're not that anymore. Reborn, found in Van Richten's, lets you have a flaming skull for a head, so we're going with that. Yes, it actually does. You just can't burn anyone because it's cosmetic. Plays +2 into strength and +1 into charisma. Ancestral Legacy grants you 2 skills of the spirit that now lives within you. Grab Athletics and Arcana. Deathless nature makes you harder to kill, even with your bad con. You now have advantage on saving throws against being poisoned and diseased. You have resistance to poison damage. You have advantage on death saving throws, and you don't need to eat, drink, or breathe to survive. And finally, you don't sleep and can't be put to sleep magically. Your long rests are now 4 hours where you remain motionless. Knowledge of a past life improves your skill checks by adding a d6 to those checks. You can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. For background, we need perception and insight. In case you missed where I said you make bad deals, that telegraphed where we're starting out. Level 1 Warlocks start off with 2 skills. Grab Intimidation and Religion. Otherworldly Patron is the source of your powers, so you know where this is going. Fiend, found in the Player's Handbook, is pretty damn obvious. In all honesty, both subclasses are way too on the head for this build. Dark One's Blessing grants you temporary HP equal to your Charisma modifier plus Warlock level. Pact Magic makes you a fake Spellcaster. I will never not call a Warlock a fake Spellcaster. You gain limited spell slots, but they are power to the highest level you can have. You start with 2 cantrips and 2 spells. For those spells, Eldrtich Blast unleashes a blazing chain out to 120 feet and dealing 1d10 force damage. Mind Sliver is the first penance stare. We'll get one better later. Targeting one creature within 60 feet that you can see, you force an intelligence save, deal 1d6 psychic damage on a failure, and they must now subtract 1d4 from their next saving throw. Burning Hands unleashes a 15-foot cone of fire and forces a dex save on everyone inside the cone. Should they fail, they receive 3d6 fire damage. Hex curses a creature that you can see within 90 feet with a bonus action. Now when you deal damage to them, they receive an extra 1d6 necrotic damage. When you cast this, you choose one skill, and now they have disadvantage on that skill while you maintain the spell for 1 hour. If the creature dies before the end of the spell, you can use a bonus action to transfer the curse to another creature. Level 2 Warlocks gain Eldrtich Invocations. These are special gifts of your patron that augment your abilities or give you new ones. You get 2 at this level. For your invocations, Devil's Sight now lets you see in darkness and magical darkness as if it's normal out to 120 feet. Agonizing Blast adds your charisma modifier to the damage done by Eldrtich Blast. For your new spell, Cause Fear awakens dread within mortal hearts, though you do have a flaming skull for a head, so I think that helps. Would scare the hell out of me, just saying. Targeting one creature within 60 feet, you force a wisdom save. Should they fail, they are now frightened of you for 1 minute while you maintain the spell. At the end of each of your turns, a creature affected by the spell can repeat their save. Level 3 Warlocks receive a Pact boon. Pact of the Blade allows you to create a magical weapon with an action. This weapon can be any weapon, and you will always be proficient with it. Chains or blade doesn't matter. You also receive second level spell slots. Now all your first level spells are improved. Like Burning Hands now does 4d6 fire damage, and Cause Fear can target 2 creatures. For your new spell, Scorching Ray fires 3 blasts of Hellfire, dealing 2d6 fire damage with each blast. Level 4 Warlocks earn our first ability score improvement. Place this into Charisma for better spell attack and DC. For your new spells, Green Flame Blade sheaths a weapon in fire. When you hit a creature within 5 feet of you with this weapon, fire shoots out and hits another creature within 5 feet of the first, dealing your Charisma modifier in fire damage. This will not work with your chains, as you will likely use a whip unless you don't use the reach property and are standing next to the person using the whip. Then it works. Remember, you have to be within 5 feet of the person. Hold Person wraps your chains around one humanoid within 60 feet, forcing a wisdom save. Should they fail, they are now paralyzed for 1 minute while you maintain the spell. The humanoid may retake the save at the end of each of their turns. Okay, it's time to jump classes, and I think we all know where this is going. Level 1 Paladins gain Divine Sense. You can now, as an action, expend your awareness and sense outsiders, which are celestials, fiends, and undead. Until the end of your next turn, you know the location of any outsider within 60 feet that is not behind total cover. You can also sense the presence of any ground or object that is holy or desecrated within 60 feet. You can do this a number of times, equal to 1 plus your Charisma modifier between long rests. Lay on Hands grants you a healing pool you can pull from to heal yourself or others. This pull equals 5 times your paladin level between long rests. As an action, you can now touch a creature or yourself and heal them a number of hit points equal to the points pulled from the pool. You can also spend 5 from the pool to cure 1 disease or stop 1 poison effect. Your character level 5 now. Green Flame Blade now does an extra 1d8 fire damage to the original hit and 1d8 plus charisma to the second hit. Mind Sliver now does 2d6 psychic damage, and Eldrtich Blast now fires 2 chains per action. Level 2 Paladins now have a fighting style. Dueling adds +2 to your weapon damage when holding it in one hand and holding no other weapon. Spellcasting makes you a real spellcaster. Well, actually a paladin is a half caster. After a long rest, you can prepare a total number of spells equal to your charisma modifier plus half your paladin level. Before we get to your spells, Divine Smite empowers your melee weapon attacks by burning spell slots. For burning a first level spell slot, you are adding 2d8 radiant damage to the attack, and for each spell slot you burn higher than the first, you add another d8. Also, this damage is increased by 1d8 when you hit an undead or fiend. Now on to your spells. You start off with 5 spells. For your spells, Cure Wounds heals you 1d8 plus your charisma modifier. Searing Smite ignites your melee weapon in fire while you maintain the spell for 1 minute. After casting this spell, the first creature you hit receives 1d6 extra fire damage and is engulfed in flames. At the start of each of its turns until the spell ends, the target must make a con save, or take another d8, or take another d6 of fire damage on a failure. If the target makes the save, or uses an action to put out the fire, like use water, the spell ends. And you can use this with your chains, as you don't require to be within 5 feet to ignite someone. You get 3 more spells, have fun deciding. You're really just going to use your spell slots for Divine Smite anyway. Level 3 Paladins receive their subclass, and I'm pretty sure you already know where we're going with this. Vengence, found in the player's handbook. Channel Divinity allows you to empower yourself with your wrath once per short or long rest. When you use your Channel Divinity, you choose one of 2 options. For those options, Adjure Enemy lets you use an action to force a wisdom save on one creature within 60 feet of you. Should they fail, they are now frightened of you and have their speed reduced to 0 and can't receive bonuses to their speed for 1 minute. On a successful wisdom save, the creature's speed is half for 1 minute or until it takes damage. damage. Fiends and Undead must make this save at disadvantage. Vow of Enmity lets you, as a bonus action, mark an enemy within 10 feet of you. You now have advantage on attack rolls against the creature for 1 minute or until it drops to 0 hit points or falls unconscious. Oath spells are spells you always have prepared and never count against your total spells prepared. For those spells, Bane lets you curse up to 3 targets within 30 feet for 1 minute while you maintain this spell. All 3 must make charisma saves. Should they fail to save, they must subtract 1d4 from any attack roll or saving throw. Hunter's Mark lets you mark an enemy with a bonus action within 90 feet of you for 1 hour while you maintain this spell. When marked, the creature will take an extra d6 of damage when you hit them with a weapon attack. You also have advantage on perception and survival checks made to find the marked target. If the target dies before 1 hour, you can move the mark with a bonus action to another creature you see within 90 feet. This is basically Hex, but for tracking. Divine Health makes you immune to diseases. Level 4 Paladins earn another ability score improvement. Let's cap off Charisma. You can now prepare a total of 7 spells per day. Level 5 Paladins gain extra attack. You can now attack twice with a single attack action. You also gain access to 2nd level spells. For your Oath spells, Hold Person you already have, but now you don't need Warlock to have it, so you can replace it in a few levels. Misty Step lets you teleport 30 feet with a bonus action. You can also now prepare the spell Find Steed. You can now summon a Phantom Steed into battle. The spell takes 10 minutes to cast and the steed stays with you until it dies. Level 6 Paladins receive Aura of Protection. This creates a field around you that extends out to 10 feet. Now, whenever you or a friendly creature inside the field must make a save, you can now add your Charisma modifier to the save. This includes adding your Charisma modifier to a Charisma save, which you're already adding to. You can now prepare a total of 8 Paladin spells. Level 5 Warlocks gain another Invocation. For this Invocation, Improved Pact Weapon adds +1 to your Pact Weapon's attack and damage. Your Pact Weapon can now be a ranged weapon and is now a spellcasting focus for your Warlock spells. You also gain 3rd level spell slots. For your new spell, Fireball launches a ball of fire out to 150 feet, exploding out into a 20-foot radius sphere. Each creature within the sphere must make a dex save or take 8d6 fire damage. Your character level 11 now. Green Flame Blade now does an extra 2d8 fire damage to the original target and 2d8 plus charisma to the second target. Mind Sliver does 3d6 psychic damage, and now you can fire 3 chains with Eldrtich Blast with a single action. Level 6 Fiend Warlocks now have Dark One's own luck. You can now improve your skill checks by adding 1d10 once per short or long rest. For your new spell, Fear unleashes True Dread from within anyone who sees you for 1 minute while you maintain this spell. You create a 30-foot cone and you force a wisdom save on everyone within the cone. Should they fail, they drop everything they are holding and now must run away from you. The only action they can use is dash, and they can't retake the save while they can see you. Combine this with Adjure enemies and they will never get away from you. Level 7 Warlocks receive another Invocation. For this Invocation, Grasp of Hadar lets you pull creatures you hit with your Eldrich Blast 10 feet towards you per hit. You also receive 4th level spells. For your new spell, Fire Shield surrounds you in a fire to protect you. When you cast this spell, you choose a Warm or Chilled Shield. Warm Shield grants you resistance to cold damage and causes 2d8 fire damage to any creature that hits you with a melee attack that is within 5 feet. Chilled Shield is the reverse, cold resistance and 2d8 cold damage. That's it. The shield lasts for 10 minutes and does not need maintained. Level 8 Warlocks earn another ability score improvement. Place this into strength for better attacks and damage. For your new spell, Wall of Fire creates a massive wall of fire for 1 minute while you maintain the spell. When you create the wall, you decide how it appears. You can make it a wall that is 60 feet long, 20 feet high, and 1 foot thick, or make it a ring that is a 20-foot diameter, 20 feet high, and 1 foot thick. When the wall appears, every creature within it must make a dex save or take 5d8 fire damage. On one side of the wall, selected by you when you cast this spell, the wall can deal 5d8 fire damage to each creature that ends its turn within 10 feet of that side. Level 9 Warlocks gain another invocation. For this invocation, Eldrtich Mind grants you advantage on concentration checks made to maintain your spells. You also gain 5th level spell slots, which is as high as you can go. Remember to check if spells get amped up the higher spell slots they use when you cast them. For your new spell, Flame Strike creates a 10-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder centered on a point within 60 feet. Each creature within the cylinder must make a dex save or take 4d6 fire and 4d6 radiant damage. Level 10 Fiend Warlocks now have Fiendish Resilience. Now when you take a short or long rest, you choose one damage type. You now have resistance to that damage. Damage from magical weapons or silver weapons can ignore that resistance though. Level 11 Warlocks receive their first Mystic Arcanum. This is a spell higher than 5th level that you can cast without a spell slot. This Arcanum will be at 6th level. For your Arcanum, Investiture of Flame wraps your body in Hellfire. For 10 minutes while you maintain this spell, you are now immune to fire damage, resistance to cold damage. Any creature that moves within 5 feet of you the first time or ends their turn within 5 feet takes 1d10 fire damage, and you can use your action to create a line of fire that extends 15 feet out from you and is 5 feet wide. Any creature within the line must make a dex save or take 4d8 fire damage. For your new spell, Hold Monster is an upgraded version of Hold Person, but now you can target any creature other than a humanoid. Your character level 17 now. Green Flame Blade now does an extra 3d8 fire damage to the first target and 3d8 plus charisma to the second target. Mind Sliver does 4d6 psychic damage, and you can finally fire 4 chains with Eldritch Blast with a single action. Level 12 Warlocks earn our final ability score improvement, Cap Off Strength. You also have your final invocation. For this invocation, Life Drinker adds necrotic damage to your Pact weapon that equals your charisma modifier. Level 13 Warlocks gain their next Mystic Arcanum, and your final one, now at 7th level. For this Arcanum, Plane Shift allows you to travel to another plane of existence, like Hell, with up to 8 willing creatures. You can also use this to banish someone to Hell, or another Hell dimension if you prefer. Making a melee spell attack, you force a charisma save on a hit. Should they fail, they are dumped in wherever plane you want. Best part is, there's no coming back from this, other than them finding a way themselves. For your final spell, Banishment targets one creature within 60 feet and forces a charisma save. Should they fail, they are shunted into a pocket dimension for 1 minute while you maintain this spell. At the end of that 1 minute, one of two things will happen. If they're from the plane you're currently on, they return to where they were, giving you time to prepare. If they're from a different plane of existence, they return there instead. Our final level is level 14 Warlock, and Fiend Warlocks get my favorite feature, Hurl Through Hell. Time to go full on Penance Stare. After hitting a creature with an attack, you throw them through hell. They vanish for 1 turn, and when they return, they take 10d10 psychic damage. You see why this is my favorite, right? You can do this once per long rest. Now that we've hit level 20, let's recap. Your stats are Strength 20, Dex 12, Con 13, Intelligence 10, Wisdom 8, Charisma 20. Your total levels are Warlock 14, Paladin 6. Let's dive in. Alright, let's get to the gritty. You are just deadly. Using whips for chains, because for some odd reason, Wizards of the Coast doesn't have chain weapons anymore. Huge mistake there, they were my favorite in 3.5. You're going to be dealing 1d4 plus 10 magical damage. You can then add up to 5d8s and 1d6 to the damage, and that's just melee. At range, you can deal 1d10 plus 5 out to 120 feet, and can have multiple fire spells that can just burn the battlefield away. Oh yeah, when you hit with an attack, you can then cause 10d10 psychic damage automatically. No saves, just pain. To round out damage, you can curse or mark your enemies to hinder them or track them better while causing more damage. You have mobility with the ability to summon a mount, and teleportation, as well as the ability to cross dimensions. Hell, you're also completely terrifying with the ability to awaken dread within someone, reduce the speed of your enemies, and paralyze them. Downside. Firstly, you have a lot of concentration spells, and they're all pretty good. You have decent health with approaching 130, but that's not much when you take in consideration your poor AC. You'll only be adding 1 to any armor you're wearing, unless you want to drop one of your invocations and take Armor of Shadows, which will give you mage armor, which is a 13 plus dex AC, which still is not that much by comparison to just wearing leather armor. Finally, your wisdom save is pretty terrible and intelligence is bad. Those are 2 stats spells like to target the most, followed by charisma, but you are adding a lot to that, so it doesn't matter. Thankfully, you can add +5 to your wisdom save, which is a -1. Still not that great. Ride into hell following you and attack just as fast and furious, or we'll be waiting on the next person to bear the rider's spirit. Thank you all for joining me today. I release a new character build each week on YouTube and Spotify. Make sure to check out my Patreon to help decide the next build, and more benefits will be coming soon. Also, remember, requests are always open at gonzo63rd@gmail.com.